Okay, so in this video we're going to be taking a look at problem 1.4 from the Shapes and Designs part of our textbook, which is all about measuring angles. A lot of this is going to be review, but we're going to be introducing a tool called the angle ruler, which you may or may not have used before. Our LEQ for this lesson is how do you use an angle ruler and a protractor to measure and angle. So these are the two tools that we have for measuring an angle. On the left is the protractor. You should have used a protractor before and be very comfortable using a protractor. We'll review that in just a minute, but you'll notice that on the inside of the protractor there are numbers or degrees going from 0 to 180. On the outside it goes from 180 to 0. So the only thing you have to pay attention with when you use a protractor is to make sure that you're reading the correct inside or the outside of the protractor, and you should remember, or you should know how to do that based on just looking at the angle and being able to tell if it's acute or obtuse. Our second tool is called the angle ruler, and we're going to take a look at that in just a minute too. It's just another tool to help us measure acute and obtuse angles with a little more flexibility. Alright, so let's just review here quickly how to use a protractor in order to measure an angle. Okay, so here I have an angle. The first thing I should be able to tell is that I know this angle is acute. And that is a good thing to always identify before we start. So we remember when we use the protractor, remember there is an inside line to the protractor and an outside line to the protractor, and we need to make sure we're reading the right line. So remember, this protractor has the little dot in the middle. That's where I'm going to put my vertex. I have a line that goes out from the dot that lines up with my 0-degree angle, which would be down here. I'm going to lay that on the bottom part of my angle. So I'm lining up my hole with the vertex. I'm lining up that bottom line of the 0-degree angle with the edge of my angle. Okay, and now I'm just moving this around so you can see with the glare. I'm going to read the top. Okay, I need the acute, so I need somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees. If I go in here and look closer, I see the longer line is at 55. This is about 56 degrees. So I'm going to come over here and say that this angle is 56 degrees. Okay, another quick demonstration for the protractor. I see that this angle here should be obtuse. That's the first thing that I identify. Once again, I'm going to place that dot or that hole in the protractor at the vertex. I'm going to line up the 0-degree line. I'm going to read. Up here at the top, this is right under 120. Now notice how this doesn't quite reach the edge of my protractor, and even since this is at the top of my paper, even if I extended my line, which I can do to get it longer, okay, so if you have a line that doesn't reach the whole way, just kind of use your protractor and extend it. So I'm going to need to get as close as possible. Okay, and when you do these, I'll give you probably 2 or 3 degrees. This one here, if I look, it looks like it's going to be 110, 115, and 3 more be at 118 degrees. Okay, let's take a look here at our second type of angle measurement type, and that would be the angle ruler. Okay, you should all have an angle ruler in the pencil boxes at the tables. There should be 1 or 2 per pencil box. Okay, this angle ruler has 2 arms. Notice how they swing, and one side is always below the other. We call these the arms. The little dot in the middle is called the rivet. You'll notice down the middle of each of the arms there is a line. We call that the center line. That's where we're going to mark things up. Notice it's an angle ruler because I could also flip it out and make it a ruler. These are really handy tools for when we do things like designing quadrilaterals and triangles, because instead of needing a protractor and a ruler, we can have it all in one with just an angle ruler. So here's how this works. Notice I have the same angle that we looked at when we looked at the protractor. I'm going to start by finding my bottom arm. Okay, it's the one that doesn't have ETA written on it. I'm going to make sure it's below the other arm. Okay, I'm going to place the rivet on the vertex. Okay, and I'll see if I can find a non-glary spot for you here. There we go. And notice how this bottom arm swings. I'm going to make sure that center line lines up the whole way down along the arm of my angle. Okay. Now I'm going to take my other arm and just making sure I hold the first part steady, swing it so that its center line matches up. And now where I need to read is right down here. So let me zoom in on this. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in here. A little bit more so you can see this okay. Alright, so here we go. This is what we have. Notice that I have a 45 mark 60. So by counting, I know that each of those is worth 5. So 45, 50. I'm near the 55 mark. Okay, and notice how these guys here line up. Okay, so I'm going to come in. This 0 would be the 55 mark, and each tick mark to the left of it would be one more. So it looks like I am right on that 0 mark, so I'm going to call this angle 55 exactly. Okay, notice this was with my angle ruler. Okay, if you go back to what we looked at with the protractor, I got 56. Okay, that's okay. I give you a couple degrees leeway, and these angle measurement tools aren't exact, so we can't expect to get the exact same answer both times. Let's check how we do with the other angle I had given us. This was our obtuse angle. Okay, same process. I'm going to start by putting the rivet at the vertex and lining up the center line of the bottom arm with the bottom of my angle. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to swing this arm until the center line matches up, and I'm going to read. I'm close to the 120. Okay, looks like what I can do here now a little bit is I want to line up these 5. So I'm going to line up the left 5 right here with that 120 mark. Okay, and now I'm going to kind of count in. I kind of go 2 in. Looks like about 2 below, so 118 degrees is what I'll go with. When we used our protractor, notice that we got the same thing. Okay? These angle rulers take a little bit to get used to, and that's okay, but I want you to get comfortable using them. When it comes time for the quiz, you'll have the choice as to whether to use a protractor or an angle ruler. So it would be in your best benefit as you work through the problems in a little bit to use both the protractor and the angle ruler in order to make sure you're comfortable with both. Alright, so we've now reviewed how to use protractors and angle rulers to measure an angle. Our activities in class are going to focus just on making sure that we are solid with measuring these types of angles and measuring all types of angles so that we can move forward with future lessons.